Most people who load Omnisphere turn a knob, get a sound they like, and move on, and fair enough, there are over 10,000 patches in here. But if you've never stopped to understand what's actually happening inside the filter section, then you've only been getting about 30% of what this instrument can actually do. There are over 70 filter types. You've got all these here. And you've got all the legacy ones, and if we go into here, you have all sorts of wonderful controls to play with. You've got dual stereo architecture, resonance that can self-isolate, and a variant control that does something no other synth filter does. And we're going to get into all of that in video 2. But before any of this makes sense, you need to understand what these controls you're looking at do right here. Because if you get these wrong, it doesn't matter how sophisticated the engine is underneath, you're just not going to get the full use out of Omnisphere 3. So let's build on this properly. So a filter is not just an effect. It's not really an effect at all. It's a sculpting tool. You know, it allows you to chisel, but with a sculpture you get a block of stone and you start chiseling away. And this is what a filter section is like. You start with the full frequency content of the sound, and the filter removes parts of it, shaping what's left into something new. And that in itself is a core of subtractive synthesis, and Omnisphere's filter is one of the most capable implementations of it in any software instrument I've come across. And the most common type we've got is a low pass filter, which we're just going to engage here. And this allows low frequencies to pass through and higher frequencies to get cut off. And this is most of the classic synthesizers are built on that you've heard of, like the Mini Moog, the Jupiter 8, the Prophet 5, and these were all built around the low pass filter. And Omnisphere has those covered absolutely in spades, but it goes a lot further, which we're going to unpack as we go. So what we're doing here, if I play middle C, I'll sustain that for you, and I open the cutoff gradually. You can see in the right hand side on the EQ how as I open the cutoff, we get the high frequencies that come through. And the main controls of this section here, the cutoff and resonance. So everything else you see here, these other 4 controls, modifies and refines or routes the effects of the cutoff and the resonance. And that's the frame of what we're going to work on today. So before you touch a single knob, let's take a moment to look at the preset menu at the top of this filter section here. And doesn't work the same as sort of like the patch library here, because a filter preset stores the entire configuration of Omnisphere's dual filter system, which filter types are loaded, how they're routed, what the post gain is set to, and the offsets between the 2 filters that we briefly saw in this screen here. So it saves all that in one of these presets. And if you think of it though as a sort of like a safe starting point for the filter engine itself, and what I'm going to show you here is something that's quite important, is if I just move this resonance and the cutoff just at random points, and I start stepping through these, they all stay where they are. And that's intentional, because Spectrasonics designed it this way so you can audition different filter configurations in the context of your current patch without losing the settings you've already dialed in. So if I do Epic Analog Goosebumps, and I say, oh, let's change the filter on this part to a bandpass, and I get a different sound speciality. So it's not moved these controls, but it allows us to sort of audition what the filter change would do to the sound. And that's a really thoughtful decision, because it means you can swap from a Jupiter style low pass to a formant filter and immediately hear what that configuration does to your patch. And it's not some sort of like default demo. I'm just going to set this back to initialize patch. And if I go into the filter section here, one thing to actually notice is if I start playing with these filters in here, you'll see that changes to modified. And what that means then is that's your signal you've drifted from the stored configuration. And if you build something you want to keep, you can save it as a new preset by just going there, say filter preset, and you can save it whatever you want to call it, and it'll add it to your library. So that's a way of building your own sort of like filter presets, really, in a way. So we now have, if I just go back to before we come on initialize patch, there we go. Don't want to confuse anything here. So the cutoff control sets the frequency point at which the filter begins to work. So with a low pass filter, turning it counterclockwise darkens the sound by removing the high frequencies. And with a high pass filter, the opposite, turning it down, opens up the top end and thins the bottom ends that we saw a moment ago. And this ranges from 0.05 kilohertz all the way through to 19 kilohertz, which covers pretty much the range of an adult hearing. So if I just demonstrate again, we get brighter. If I change that to high pass, the opposite happens. I'll just turn that back to a low pass filter so we're not classic 4-pole. Now, what we do mean by these poles, etc. here, if you just bring up this diagram. Now, the cutoff doesn't just remove frequencies as a hard edge, as this diagram shows. It rolls them off at a slope measured in decibels per octave, and sometimes described in poles. So 6 decibels is 1 pole, 12 decibels is 2 poles, 18 decibels is 3 poles, and 24 decibels is 4 poles. A higher decibel value means a steeper, more dramatic cut, but steeper doesn't always mean better. A gentle 6 decibel slope can sound really organic and warm and musical, whereas a 24 decibel cut is quite surgical and clinical, and it can be exactly what you need for a tight electronic sound, or it can make a pad sound unnatural, and the right choice depends on the context. And we have also some specialised filter types in this the filter section. We've got a metal pipe and resonator filters, and the cutoff doesn't control the frequency for these at all. It sort of like tunes the filter's pitch, which is quite an interesting concept, and we're going to cover those in full in the second video of this 2-part series, because they deserve sort of like space all of its own, and so hold on to that thought. So we also have resonance, and this is sometimes referred to as Q or emphasis, and amplifies the frequencies around the cutoff point. So if you wind it all the way up to absolute max, you get a characteristic filter peak, sort of like the wah, the sweep, the resonant ring that defines so much electronic music. But what's less obvious is that higher resonance also increases the output level. So if you're pushing resonance hard and the sound suddenly sort of like leaps at you and feels far too loud, or starts distorting, that could be why. And the fix is the gain control underneath here, which we'll cover very shortly. And just to demonstrate what the resonance does, we're going to turn the cutoff up a bit. Now, if I turn that resonance up, you can see it's peaking there, that little peak there, because I'm just sweeping through. And if I turn the cutoff up, see how it's now peaking there. So that's what happens with the resonance. It sort of like peaks that particular part of the frequency of the cutoff. A little interesting one here is the UVI's low pass UVI 1. Low pass filter UVI 1. Now this can self-oscillate, and it means if you push the resonance all the way up, the filter itself generates a pitched tone. And that opens up some generally unusual sound design possibilities, and we're going to demonstrate exactly how to use that in the second video of this series. For now, just be aware that the maximum resonance on that filter type is not the same as a maximum resonance on any other filter type. And just for demonstration purposes, middle C again. So that's what you get with the opened fully resonance on the UVI filter. Now we've got key tracking, and it's one of those controls that looks simple but makes a significant difference to how a sound feels when played across the keyboard. So what does it do? Well, it links the filter cutoff to the note being played. So the higher the key tracking value, the more the filter opens as you play higher notes and closes as you play lower ones. And the reference point for this is actually middle C. So why does this matter? Well, because natural acoustic instruments behave this way. A violin string played high has more high frequency content than the same instrument playing low. So when you set key tracking appropriately, synthesized sounds start to behave more like acoustic ones. They feel alive and, up and down the keyboard rather than having a static tonal character that doesn't change with pitch. So let's just have a quick demonstration. OP, OB, low pass, 4-pole, we'll have cutoff round about there. Just keep an eye on the EQ on the side here. So if I turn the key tracking up and I play an octave scale, that's quite dull. Now it's quite bright. Now if I do it the opposite end, if I do it up at the top end, turn the key tracking all the way up, and it becomes bright at the top end, so it has the opposite effect. So we now have also an invert switch on this below the key tracking control. So if we highlight that and just click on it, the relationship flips. So the higher notes now close the filter and the lower notes open it. And here's when this becomes useful, because the resonator filters in Omnisphere behave quite unusual. As you raise the cutoff, the pitch of the resonance goes down, and the opposite of what you'd sort of expect. To get those filters to track the keyboard correctly, you need to invert the key tracking, and the manual does specifically call this out. So if we set the filter cutoff to around, say, 50%, so about there, it'll do nicely, and turn tracking up fully. But if I invert it now, now this is where it gets fun. If I turn the resonator up, get a nice sound there, sort of like opens it up quite naturally. So it's a great sound design too. And we've got also this envelope depth thing. I'm just going to turn the resonance back down, and we'll just turn key tracking back down. So the envelope knob here, this one called Env, sets how much of the filter's own envelope affects the cutoff frequency. At 0, the filter envelope has no effect, and increasing it and the filter allows the ADSR shape of the filter envelope down here. Sort of that the opening and closing is sort of, that's what this particular ADSR envelope does. And this is one of the most expressive tools in any synthesizer, and Omnisphere's implementation is really, really nice. So a good starting point is to keep the envelope at roughly the midpoint. So if we turn that to around about there, and because this gives the envelope enough sort of like shape to alter the tone without fully taking over, and from there you can just in small increments. So if I just turn that down, and turn that down more. Notice how the filter is now affecting So that's the way that what the envelope does to the sound. There's one thing to actually note though, is if you have both cutoff depth to 0 and the envelope to 0, you're going to get this. No sound. And if the cutoff is fully open and the envelope is fully open, then this is not going to really do anything to the sound whatsoever, because you've got everything sort of like either open or closed. but both extremes are valid in sound design. Anything literally goes in sound design. Unlike key tracking, you have an invert switch with the envelope inverted. It does the opposite of what we had before. So raising it closes the filter rather than opening it. And this creates sort of like a nice sweep effect. Let's just open the filter a bit. Make it a bit brighter. What I can do is actually put an LFO on that. So you get a nice little sweep sound. So it's a great way of creating that type of filter sweep. And if you just modulate that, so we get everything back to normal. Now we've got these three little sliders underneath, gain and saturation. Now the gain control on this page adjusts the output level of the entire filter section. So your default is 0 decibels, and that slider ranges from -infinity all the way up to plus 9.5 decibels. And there are two common scenarios where this matters. And the first one is if you've closed down the cutoff significantly and the sound is quiet as a result, you can use a gain slider to compensate. And the second reason why you might want to use it is, if you remember before I mentioned about if you turn the resonance up, it also turns up the volume sometimes of the actual filter section. Well, the gain can compensate this and just bring it down. So if let's turn the cutoff, turn resonance up. So if that's too loud, I can just knock it down a bit. If it's too quiet, I can turn it up. So it's a straightforward but easy thing to overlook when you're deep in sound design and a patch suddenly sounds louder or quieter than expected. So it's something to check out when you're sort of sound designing and thinking this has gone a bit too quiet. This gain knob might be your answer. Well, it's not a knob, it's a slider. We've also got another slide next to it, saturation, and this is the newer addition to Omnisphere 3, and it's one that can add a lot of character for a least amount of effort. Omnisphere saturation is a component model, meaning it's not just clipping applied to a signal, it's a simulation of the non-linear behaviour found in real analog hardware. And the result is warm harmonic distortion that sort of thickens the sound and adds a sense of life that purely digital processing just doesn't have. Just need to compensate. Notice how it gets a bit harsher as I open the saturation. And the operative word here is a little. So you start at low values, sort of like 5 to 15%. At those levels, saturation adds density and warmth that can make a patch feel more physical and alive. Once you get past about 30% on the slider, you're moving into deliberate colour like we've just done there. And it's useful for certain sounds, but too heavy-handed for a lot of ambient work. You like the softer sounds for ambient work. One important note though is saturation is not stored in the filter presets. So each time you load a new filter preset, the saturation does tend to reset and you need to factor that into your workflow. So let's put all this together. I'm going to start from an initialized patch. And we're going to have JP8 saw. And what we're going to do is set the cutoff to around 40%, so around about there will do nicely. A little resonance. We're going to have key tracking about halfway. And the filter envelope depth, I'm going to have the midpoint. And I'm going to have a slow attack, a longer decay, add a bit of sustain, bit of reverb, bit of release. Thinking ahead of myself here. And to make it a little bit more usable. I'm going to stick on unison, whack up the depth, drop it an octave. I'm going to go into effects and whack on a nice solar shimmer. I'm going to put Andromeda preset, drop that to about 20%. So we've covered everything on the main layer page for the filter section in this video, but honestly, it's just the beginning. In the second part of this two-part series, we're going to go into the filter zoom section, and that's where Omnisphere's 70 filter types live, where you configure series and parallel routing, where the variant control creates filter effects that don't exist anywhere else, and where pre-gain and post-gain let you push the saturation in ways the layer page just really can't access. So if you want to understand what Omnisphere filters are actually capable of, then please subscribe to the channel for the second video so you don't miss it when it comes out. And if you have any specific sort of like filter questions, do put them in the comments below if you want me to cover them, because I do read every single comment and they do feed directly into what I produce. This video series in itself came from a comment I received from one of the viewers who wanted to understand the filter section more. So thank you for that, and I hope this video has been helpful. So until next time and part 2, stay creative, stay sonic, and I will catch you in the next one.